I have so much hair. Oh,
And I'm sweaty. Oh, so sweaty.
that's not how I wanted to do this. Okay. And I'm not quite sure which day of Bookmas we're on at the moment. Doesn't matter if the snow is falling. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rochelle. For those of you that are new here, I have an obsession with pretty books and I have a disability. And today what we're going to do is go over some books that I am so excited for in the year of 2025. There are so many amazing books coming out, and I felt like it would be a good idea to go and walk through some of them in case if you haven't heard of them either, and you can add them to your TBR list, because we're all in this together when it comes to getting excited over great books that are releasing in the coming year. So I have them all on my phone here, so we're gonna pull them up. Okay, so the first book that I have here is Divining the Leaves by Shveta Thakrar. And honestly, this book really drew me in because the cover is so stunning. I just love the colors that are used in it and the couple that we have on the front cover. I'm really trying to get back into fantasy. I feel like I kind of stayed away from it for a period of time and was kind of focusing more on horror and thrillers, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I do really want to go back into reading more fantasies again. So a beautifully imagined contemporary fantasy about two teens, one a believer of magic who yearns to belong, the other a skeptic searching for an escape, who find themselves embroiled in a twisty world of court intrigue when they venture into a forest ruled by yakshas, I think I'm saying that right, mysterious woodland spirits drawn from Hindu and Buddhist folklore. This sounds so interesting. I feel like I haven't read a book that has those influences in it. And again, like I said, this cover is one that I'm very interested in because the cover is drawing me in so close. I know they say don't judge a book by its cover, but I have a problem with pretty covers, so that is why this one is on my list. Then the next one I have is Bochica, and it's by Carolina Flórez-Cerchiaro. Cerchiaro. Oh my gosh. This is going so well. But this one seemed really interesting. I loved the cover and how dark and gothic it looked. Right away, it looks like there's already some people that have been reading ARCs for this book because it's 5 stars straight across the board. So I'm very interested in that. It says a real-life Latin American haunted mansion. A murky labyrinth of family secrets, a young aristocratic woman desperate to escape her past. This haunting debut gothic horror novel is perfect for fans of Mexican Gothic and The Shining. I haven't read either of those, but The Shining has always been on my list to eventually read. But I think this coming year I'm going to try to read it because that is on my horror bingo board. But this one definitely seems really interesting. The main character of the story is getting some disturbing dreams and she's wondering if she was the reason for her mother's death. So it definitely seems like something that messes a little bit with your mind when you're reading this, and I'm definitely here for it. Those books definitely get me to go down a deep wormhole, especially to go and see like what other people's theories are and if they came up with something similar or maybe something I haven't even thought of. And then I have Listen to Your Sister by Nina Veal. And this one is coming out on February 4th. That's the expected date. And right away when I was looking at this one, of course, like, I love horror, so the title and the cover looked very creepy to me and immediately drew me in. But then it also said for fans of Jordan Peele's films, which I love all of his movies. His movies are so great. And my fiance, who's actually terrified of most horror things, or he was before he started dating me, he has now opened up his mind to going and watching those things as long as there's no paranormal. He still can't do paranormal when it comes to horror, but he's watching a lot more of these movies and he loves Jordan Peele. And it says Stranger Things and the Other Black Girl, Listen to Your Sister is a laugh-out-loud, deeply terrifying, and big-hearted speculative horror novel from electrifying debut talent Nina Veal. I'm a little bit nervous because of the laugh-out-loud part. I tend to not really like horror if it's comedic. You know, I want something that's very terrifying and scary, and I feel like depending how comedy is in the book, it can really draw me out of it and really pull me away from the story, and I'm not a fan of that, but I'm still very interested. It says 25-year-old Kayla Williams is struggling since becoming guardian to her brother Jamie. Kayla is overwhelmed and tired of being the one who makes sacrifices to keep the family together. Ooh, it's definitely an older sibling thing from what I hear. I'm an only child, so I don't know, but I have a lot of friends that are older siblings that have told me that they relate to something like this. Jamie, full of good-natured 16-year-old recklessness, is usually off fighting for what matters to him or getting into mischief, often at the same time. Dre, the brother, promised he would help raise Jamie, but now the ink is dry on the paperwork, and in classic middle child fashion, he's off doing his own thing. And through it all, the nightmare never stops haunting Kayla, recurring images of her brother dying that she is powerless to stop. Ooh, okay. When Jamie's actions at a protest spiral out of control, the siblings must go on the run, taking refuge in a remote cabin that looks like it belongs on a slasher movie poster rather than an Airbnb. The siblings now face a new threat where their lives and reality hang in the balance. Their sister always warned them about nightmares. They really should have listened. Oh, this sounds so good. Okay. What I'm also gonna do before I post this is I'm gonna add these to all of my want to read list on Goodreads, as well as have the books down in the description below, so that either way you have a way of going and finding the books that I'm talking about, so you can go and add them to your TBR as well. You're welcome. Because we don't need, some of us don't need ever-growing TBRs, but I'm not gonna count myself in that because that's admitting I have a problem, which I definitely do. Okay, and then we have Somadina by Akwake Amizi. And this one doesn't seem like it's had too many reviews, but currently has 5 stars. And it's expected out April 15th of 2025. Oh, so this is from the author of Pet. I've not read that book either, but it's definitely on my list as well. And it says, a novel set in a magical West African world about a teen girl who must save her missing twin while learning to navigate her own terrifying new powers. I always love stories where characters, have these new powers and they have to learn how to use them. I just find it fascinating, and it also reminds me of, as a kiddo, playing around at recess, just pretending you had this magic and you could control the wind and the leaves and everything. So I kind of like how those things always connect me to my inner child. Yeah, definitely interested in this one. All right, so this one I won't go too into. It's Sunrise on the Reaping, which is a 0.5 book in the Hunger Games series, and it's by Suzanne Collins, if you don't know who wrote Hunger Games, and this one is expected March 18th of 2025. I have really been wanting to reread all the Hunger Game books. I haven't watched the new movie that is based off of one of the prequel books as well, but I do have it on my bookshelf. I think I have it up there. But yeah, so I've really been wanting to get back into the Hunger Game books, and of course that means going and reading these ones. I think what I'll do though is still read the Hunger Games books first and then go and read the prequels, but I am so excited. I really loved the Hunger Games when I was growing up. It really got me into my love of dystopian stories. Dystopian stories were something else back in that day, and I do really want to reread those and then watch the movies. Because I do remember one thing that really frustrated me was I loved how in the books we really got to look into Katniss's thought process and just know what was going on inside her head. But then when we watched the movie, it was just silent during a lot of those scenes. So for anyone that hadn't read the books, they're like, well, what is she doing? Why is she doing this? What is she thinking? And we never got to get that internal monologue. So yeah, I'm really interested to go and reread the books and then watch the movies. And of course, that means looking out for the prequels that are coming out, of course, and just catching up on this whole story and getting caught up in the lore again. There's A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. This is by Sangu Mandana, and this one is expected April 29th. I have not read her other book, which is A Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I haven't read this book yet, but it is on my list, and I really love the cover of this one. I don't know necessarily if they're connected at all, so maybe we can go and read them separately, but I do really love the way the cover looks on this. I also love the main character on the cover is reading a book and just has a fox wrapped around her legs. I think that is so cute and always draws me in as someone that loves animal companions in movies and books, anything like that. So it says, an enchanting novel about a witch who has a second chance to get her magical powers and her life back on track. Ooh. Sarah Swan was once one of the most powerful witches in Britain. Then she resurrected her great aunt Jasmine from the very recently dead, lost most of her magic, befriended a semi-villainous talking fox, okay, I'm intrigued, and was exiled from her magical guild. Now she slightly, reluctantly, and a bit grumpily helps Aunt Jasmine run an inn, Lancashire, where she deals with her quirky guests' shenanigans, tries to keep the talking fox in check, and longs for the magical future she lost. Ooh, this sounds really good and very cozy as well. So I'm very excited to read this one, and of course read the other book that she has as well. Then I have Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. This one is expected January 14th of 2025. And I admit I was drawn in because of the cover and seeing witches. I definitely am always drawn into stuff like that. So it says, there's power in a book. They call them wayward girls, loose girls, girls who grew up too fast. And they're sent to the Wellwood home in St. Augustine, Florida, where unwed mothers are hidden by their families to have their babies in secret, give them up for adoption, and most important of all, to forget any of it ever happened. I'm kind of getting like Coven vibes from American Horror Story in a way. So it says 15-year-old Fern arrives at the home in the sweltering summer of 1970, pregnant, terrified, and alone. Under the watchful eye of the stern Miss Wellwood, she meets a dozen other girls in the same predicament. There's Rose, a hippie who insists she's going to find a way to keep her baby and escape to a commune, and Zanina, a budding musician who knows she's going to go home and marry her baby's father, and Holly, a wisp of a girl, barely 14, mute and pregnant by no one knows who. Everything the girls eat, every moment of their waking day, and everything they're allowed to talk about is strictly controlled by adults who claim they know what's best for them. Oh dear. Then Fern meets a librarian who gives her an occult book about witchcraft, and the power is in the hands of the girls for the first time in their lives. But power can destroy as easily as it creates, and it's never given freely. There's always a price to be paid, and it's usually paid in blood. I am so excited for this one and can't wait to read it. I'm just getting like the Craft vibes, American Horror Story, Coven. I'm getting a lot of those vibes from like the classic witchy movies and stories that we grew up with, and I can't wait to go and pick this one up. Then, of course, I wouldn't be me if I didn't mention a book by Hannah Bonham Young. So Out of the Woods, which comes out January 28th. I actually have read an arc for this book, and it was really good. I'd still say that Out on a Limb is my all-time favorite book by this author, but it was so fun to get to go and dive back into that world and get to see Win and Bo, but also get to know more about Caleb and Sarah, and just seeing more of their story, hearing more about their relationship, and just the whole chosen family dynamic that is in the story when it comes to Win, Bo, Sarah, and Caleb. I love it so, so much. So I am definitely excited for this one, and I had to include it on my list as well. Then I have Fable for the End of the World by Ava Reed. This one comes out March 4th, and I'll admit that this one is definitely a cover interest for me as well, because I think it was in Barnes & Noble. I was looking at this book and it had like holographic pages, and it just looked so beautiful. This one also, I believe, is dystopian as well, and automatically whenever I see that word in a book description, my eyes just bug out and I'm like, I have to read this one. So it says The Last of Us meets The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes in the standalone dystopian romance about survival, sacrifice, and love that risks everything. I love The Last of Us. The video games are amazing. I know some people have mixed opinions on The Last of Us 2. I liked it. Of course, I don't like it as much as the original, but I still really enjoyed it. And the TV show was really great. I can't wait until the second season comes out. But it says, by encouraging massive accumulations of debt from its underclass, a single corporation, Karis, controls all aspects of society. Anessa lives with her brother in a half-sunken town where they scrape by running a taxidermy shop. Ooh, not so wild about taxidermy. I love animals and not a taxidermy fan. Unbeknownst to Anessa, their cruel and indolent mother has accrued an enormous debt. enough to qualify one of her children for Karis's live-streamed assassination spectacle, The Lamb's Gauntlet. Okay, I'm excited. But you can see now why I was drawn in. Like, number one, the cover, and then number two, the description on the book. I mean, it just screams something that I have to read. Then I have Watch Me, which is a part of the Shatter Me series, The New Republic Book 1 by Tara Mafi, and this one comes out April 15th. Now, I haven't read the Shatter Me series. I have, I believe, the first 3 books on my bookshelf, but come on, look at this cover. It is so pretty. I don't know what it is about the eyes on a cover, but it's so pretty. I don't like seeing feet on a cover, but you give me eyeballs, especially if it has this beautiful makeup around it or interesting colors, and I'm automatically like, I want to read that book. Give that book to me. So I have this one on my list as well. I'm not going to read the description because since I haven't read the Shatter Me series, I don't want to have any spoilers or anything like that. All I know is that with this book, it does take place in the same world, but I think in a different time frame and time period. So yeah, that's why this one is on my list, because I want to read the series and I also want that book because it's stunning. Then I have Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone, and this one is March 4th of 2025. I have not read her other book, which I can't remember the title on the top of my head, so I'll just include it here. But I have heard really good things about this author, and I'm kind of in the mood or warming up more to the idea of reading more romance again. So this is definitely one that is on my list as well, and I do really love the covers. I do really love the colors on the cover. I think they're gorgeous and a perfect choice to put together. And it says, grieving the loss of her best friend, a young woman's life is turned upside down when she meets a grumpy stranger who swears he can help her live again in this heartwarming, a slow burn romance by the author of Ready or Not. Okay, that's the name of the book. I really love books where it's like grumpy meets sunshine. Something about that dynamic always works for me in books, so I'm very excited for this one as well. Then I know I've mentioned this one in past videos, but it's The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst, and this one comes out July 15th. I have not read The Spell Shop yet. I have it on my list to read for the 10 before the end, so it definitely is something that I'm going to try my hardest to get to before the end of the year. But I had to include this book because I love plants, I love nature. One of my friends calls me like an indoor druid just because I love animals and all those things. And I had to include this book on my anticipated list because it's just so stunning and beautiful, and is something that I'm very excited to read, and will try my hardest to read the first book before I get to that one. Then I have The Crash by Frida McFadden, and this one comes out January 28th. Not gonna lie, I'm actually really excited with how many books are coming out in January. I feel like January gets a lot of crap because of the fact that, you know, it's after the holidays. It's one of the slowest months, but because my birthday is in January, I try to find like little reasons to be excited for that month and happy that that month exists. So learning that there are so many books I'm excited for that are coming out in January just like gives me that little glimmer of happiness where it's like, okay, January is going to be a good month. So it says, the nightmare she's running from is nothing compared to where she's headed. Tegan is 8 months pregnant, alone, and desperately wants to put her crumbling life in the rearview mirror. So she hits the road, planning to stay with her brother until she can figure out her next move. But she doesn't realize she's headed straight into a blizzard. She never arrives at her destination. Stranded in rural Maine with a dead car and a broken ankle, Tegan worries she's made a terrible mistake. Then a miracle, she is rescued by a couple who offers her a room in their warm cabin until the snow clears. Oh, that's not going to be good. But something isn't right. Tegan believed she was waiting out the storm, but as time ticks by, she comes to realize she's in grave danger. The safe haven isn't what she thought it was, and staying here may have been her most deadly mistake yet. And now she must do whatever it takes to save herself and her unborn child. Oh, I love this so much. I don't know what it is, but I love books where, you know, there's some storm that's happening outside, and then the main character is trapped in this house, maybe with people she knows, maybe with people she doesn't know, and then suddenly it turns into this whole survival thing. I don't know what it is, but I love those kind of books, and especially since this is a book where it's involved with a snowstorm, I really want to read books that are involved in snow, like this awful blizzard that's going on outside, while we have an awful blizzard outside here in Colorado at my house. I don't know what it is, but that just sounds so much, like, so cozy and so much fun, and I really want to do it. So this book will definitely be on my list for when that happens. So snow, you better hold on tight until this book comes out so I can read it during a snowstorm. Okay. Then I have The Starlight Heir by Annalee Howard, and this one comes out January 7th, so the day after my birthday. Okay. And this one I was also drawn in because of the cover. I thought it was so beautiful. It says, a bladesmith with the power of the stars in her blood and a prince with a dangerous secret will fight to save their kingdom in this spicy and spellbinding romantasy inspired by Persian and Indian mythology. Now, we know that spiciness isn't one of the things that I really like. I prefer stuff that's a little bit more closed door, but I also do really love representation. So the fact that this is inspired by Persian and Indian mythology is something that definitely is drawing me in, along with the cover. So that is why I really want to read this book. I have Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zeng. This one is by Kylie Lee Baker, and it's expected April 29th. I actually do have an ARC for this book on NetGalley, and I do have a different cover for it. So this one is really interesting with the one it's showing me here. But it says, in this explosive horror novel, a woman is haunted by inner trauma, 100 ghosts, and a serial killer as she confronts the brutal violence experienced by East Asians during the pandemic. I am excited for this one because we know I love horror. I think this year was the first year that I actually started reading books that either were written or take place during the pandemic, and it definitely is interesting. I know not everyone is a fan of it because a lot of us lived through the pandemic and we had to go and experience what life was like during the time of lockdown, and some of us are just not ready to get reminded of some of those things, especially if we were alone during those times. But I'm also at the same time really interested and like to go and see the thought process that these authors went through when they were writing these stories. I love looking at the author's notes for these books and just seeing what took place or what inspired them to go and write these books. So I am really excited to read this one, and since I have an ARC for it, I'll probably start it next year. And then I actually do have a physical ARC for this one. So right here, I have They Bloom at Night, and this one was a part of the Bloomsbury Creator Circle that I'm a part of, and I got this book, so I'm very excited to read this one. But it comes out on March 4th, and this one seems very apocalyptic. So it's a red algae bloom has taken over Mercy, Louisiana. Ever since a devastating hurricane, mutated wildlife lurks in the water that rises by the day. But Mercy has always been a place where monsters walk in plain sight, especially at its heart, the Cove, where Noon's life was upended long before the storm at a party her older boyfriend insisted on. Now Noon is stuck navigating the submerged town with her mom, who believes their dead family has reincarnated as sea creatures. Alone with the pain of what happened that night at the Cove, Noon buries the truth she is not the right shape. When Mercy's predatory leader demands Noon and her mom capture the creature drowning residents, she reluctantly finds an ally in his deadly hunter of a daughter and friends old and new. As the next storm approaches, Noon must confront the past and decide if it's time to answer the monster itching at her skin. I'm so excited for this one. It is also one of the first physical ARCs I've ever received, and so it's even more special to me, and I can't wait to go and read this book and for it to come out. I mean, the cover alone, I have a physical cover that I can hold up. The cover alone, she is so beautiful, and there's just so many details to go and look into it where you're like, I need to know what happens. Then I have Firebird by Juliet Cross, and this one comes out April 8th, and I love the way the cover looks on this one. I also love how the cover is kind of pulled onto the pages of the book, and it looks so beautiful. And it says, let's see. House of the Dragon meets From Blood and Ash in this epic, scorching, dark romantasy. A conqueror captivated, a witch prophesies to save them all, a world where dragons rule Rome. From the moment Roman general and nephew to the emperor Julianus Decai laid eyes on Melina, he was enthralled by the Dacian dancer. Years later, the fierce beauty stands before him on a scarred battlefield, her life in danger. He instinctively shifts into his fierce dragon form to save her, an action that may mean his head on the Imperial Gate. But he and his dragon know one thing: she belongs to them. I'm interested. I don't necessarily really read like shifter books, but I am really interested, especially by the description of this story, and I just want to read more books where there's dragons in the world, so we'll have to see how this one goes. And then I have Blood Moon by Brittany S. Lewis. This comes out June 22nd, and I follow this author on Threads, and I remember that a huge inspiration for her writing this book was to give Bonnie from The Vampire Diaries justice to her story. And that immediately was like, yes, I need to add this to my list, because I do love The Vampire Diaries, but especially with the TV show, I felt so bad for Bonnie because I feel like she got the short end of the stick so many times in the story. So that was kind of what inspired her to write this one. And it says, 18-year-old Mirabella, Mira Owens, grew up in Timber Plains, Kansas, hearing all about the local legend that werewolves had, many years ago, traveled to their small Midwest town to protect humans from the growing threat of a vampire enclave. Just a story, of course, a fairy tale who Mira had stopped believing in when she was young, just like she stopped believing in the idea of her mom returning after she up and left without a trace when she was only 13. Mira is grown up now, starting freshman year at the nearby Lakeland University. College feels normal, exactly the thing she's been craving most, except for one particular classmate, Julian Santos, a mysterious boy with long hair, golden eyes, and a coldness that seems directed exclusively at Mira for reasons she can't understand and he won't explain. When Mira receives an unaddressed letter from her mother, she's told the world isn't as it seems. She suspects her mom might be telling the truth when she stumbles across strange animal tracks on a hiking trail, and when she's miraculously saved from a 20-foot drop by the one and only Julian Santos. The problem, Julian would have had to jump the length of the cliff to catch her, making him incredibly fast and strong beyond belief. When she confronts him about this, he denies everything. So the reason I'm chuckling is because I'm a part of this like booktube girlies group, and we're kind of like watching everyone's videos. And one video that I'm watching, I can't remember the name of the person's channel, so I'll include it here and in the description. But she's doing like a play-by-play of the Twilight series, so you don't have to read the books. And I'm watching it. Or I was watching it this morning before filming this video, and it's just giving me a chuckle because, like, the line where Bella is, like, confronting Edward, and she's like, "You're incredibly fast and strong. Your skin is ice cold." You know, that type of stuff. So just reading that in this description just brought me over there, so distracted squirrel brain. But yeah, I'm really excited to read this, especially from the fact that this is kind of like a redemption story for Bonnie in a way, and I can't wait to read this book. Then we have No Place Left to Hide by Megan Lale, and this one comes out January 7th. I've also mentioned this one, I believe, in my 10 Before the End, and I have an arc for this book, and I'm so excited to pick it up. I read That's Not My Name by Megan Lale, and I loved that book so much. I loved the way she was writing, and it kept me interested in the story, and I couldn't put it down. And so I automatically was like, okay, this author's an insta-buy for me. She's only written one book, and she's an insta-buy. So I'm very excited for this next one. And with this one, it says, to Brooke, image is everything. She works hard to maintain perfect grades, perfect looks, a perfect life, especially after the incident that threatened it all. Getting into her dream university puts her that much closer to a fresh start. How can she say no to celebrating with all her classmates? Hanging out with her crush by the bonfire is the perfect end to the night. Except it isn't the end. An old truck starts aggressively tailing Brooke and her best friend on the isolated road toward home. Someone thinks they know the truth about the incident, and they won't stop until it's all out in the open. This terrifying drive is about to bring out Brooke's worst fears, if she survives it. I just think this sounds so good, and like I said, I was so impressed by the author's first book, her debut book, and I want to consume everything that she writes because her writing style is just so good. It's written in a way that I personally really enjoy, and so yeah, I can't wait for that book to come out. And then the last one we have on the list is Rings of Fate by Melissa de la Cruz. And the reason why I have this author on the list is because I found out she's Filipino, and I do have a book written by her. Yeah, so I do have a book written by her, The Encanto's Daughter. I had this one in my latest book haul, especially with a bunch of other diverse reads that I'd like to go and get into. And so when I saw that she wrote another book and it's scheduled to come out in September, apparently September 2nd of 2025, I was really excited about it. And the way the cover looks and the pages, beautiful, stunning. But it doesn't give too much of a description. It just says Princess Bride meets the Wheel of Time in an epic romantasy where sharp-tongued barmaid and an infuriatingly handsome prince agree to a fake engagement to stop a deadly magical power. That's pretty much all I have to go off of, but I love The Princess Bride. I also love sharp-tongued characters. I just love like witty banter that they always seem to give in stories. And so with those little pieces that I know, I'm just like, okay, we'll have to see what this book is about. And I can't wait for more of a description to get updated on this book, just so we have more details to further go on. Yeah, that is my very long list of books that I'm very excited for the year of 2025. I feel like there are so many great books that are getting written, and I just can't wait to go and consume them all. But at the same time, my bank account is weeping because that is very dangerous. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll have to wait and see if I can luck out and maybe get a copy from Pango Books or a thrift store or something along those lines. But yeah, if you're excited about any of those books, please let me know down in the comments. Or if there's a book that you're excited for that I didn't mention, please also let me know. Let's go and talk about books and just hype each other up for all the amazing books coming out in 2025. And as always, if you liked this video or like my channel, please go and leave a like and potentially subscribe. It just means so much to me, and I really love getting to talk about books with you all. It is just something that's been so much fun and amazing for my mental health, not gonna lie. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap up this video now and stop babbling about my excitement for books. And as always, I want you to remember that you're worthy and capable of amazing things. Love you all.